The Crusades. Just the word, and you see faces stiffen. A moral grimace, a raised eyebrow, a pointing finger. That's how the Crusades are used, like a club, a dialectical weapon. Be quiet, Christian. You have the Crusades on your conscience. It's curious, though, because those who wield that club always speak from the present, from the sofa, with a full stomach, with Google Maps open, and history closed. So let's stop for a moment. Let's breathe. And let's do something revolutionary. Let's look at the map. Year 632. Muhammad dies. From that point on, Islam does not stand still. It advances. It advances the way real armies advance. Swords, horses, sieges, conversions, taxes for those who do not convert. North Africa conquered. Middle East conquered. Jerusalem conquered. Constantinople besieged. Spain conquered. The crescent reaches as far as Poitiers. Poitiers, France, Europe. This is not a meme. It is a geographical map. For centuries, the Christian world loses territory, loses cities, loses ports, loses churches that become mosques, loses bells that are melted down. But little is said about this. Strange. The Crusades are spoken of as if they were a whim, a sudden aggression, a collective hysteria of fanatics in armor. Reality is rougher, more uncomfortable, more adult. Before the Crusades, Europe is not a predatory empire. It is a besieged periphery, a fragmented continent, poor, quarrelsome, taking blows from the south and from the east. Pilgrims set out, and often do not return. The roads to Jerusalem become traps. The chronicles speak of robberies, captivity, humiliations. And so the question is not, why the Crusades? The real question is, why so late? Because when your home is eroded room by room, first you resist, then you grit your teeth, and only at the end do you take what you have and leave. This is the world before the Crusades, not a shattered paradise, but a frontier giving way. And from there, the rest follows. Jerusalem, a word that weighs like a stone. It is not a neutral place. It never has been. Jerusalem is not an abstract symbol. It is a concrete city, dirty with history, contested, crossed by blood and prayers. For Christians, it is the Holy Sepulchre. For pilgrims, it is a destination, reached on foot, slowly, risking everything. And at a certain point, you no longer arrive. The chronicles are clear, not tweets, not indignant posts. Chronicles written with a trembling hand. Pilgrims robbed, killed, reduced to slavery. Churches desecrated, access denied. Then something happens that today makes people uncomfortable. Christians ask for help, not from an influencer, not from a talk show, from a pope. Year 1095, Clermont, a square, a man speaking without a microphone. Pope Urban II. He does not promise prosperity. He does not promise success. He does not promise a better world. He says one simple thing: to defend. Defend the pilgrims. Defend the holy places. Defend a frontier that is collapsing. Deus vult. God wills it. Today that phrase is repeated with disgust, as if it were a collective delusion. But there it is not a slogan. It is a cry. It is the response of a crowd that has understood it has reached the limit. And they set out. Professional armies do not set out. Peasants set out. Younger sons with no inheritance. Impoverished knights. men who sell everything. The crusade is not a colonial holiday. It is a march into the unknown. It is hunger. It is thirst. It is disease. It is death before even seeing the enemy. And when they arrive, they find war, the real kind. Bodies, screams, blood. Jerusalem is taken in 1099. It is a massacre. Yes, whoever denies it lies. But whoever isolates it lies twice. Because in the Middle Ages, cities taken after a siege end like this, always, on one side and the other. Judging the Middle Ages with the criminal code of 2026, no, is like putting a lion on trial for murder. The Crusades are not pure. They are not holy in the sugary sense of the word. They are dirty. No, like all wars, but they are not a sudden madness. So they are a response. And this is the point that bothers people. There is a phrase that always comes back, like an off-key refrain. Without the Crusades, today Europe would speak Arabic. It is usually said with sarcasm, as if it were barroom banter, as if it were an exaggeration by nostalgics. But let's try a simple game. One of those ideologues don't like. Remove the Crusades. Gone. Erased. What remains? There remains a Europe that for 4 centuries only endured. There remain Islamic armies that never stopped advancing. There remain caliphates that do not know the concept of a stable border. Islamic Spain lasts 8 centuries. 8, not 8 months. Not a folkloric parenthesis. If the Reconquista had lost, today Seville would be called Ishbiliya. Cordoba would have remained Cortuba, and the cathedral would not be a cathedral. Vienna, 1683. Another date that makes people uncomfortable. Another siege. If Vienna falls, the road to the heart of Europe is open, not for tourism, for conquest. History is not an uplifting novel. It is made of turning points, and some turning points pass through battles lost or won. To say the Crusades do not matter is like saying walls do not matter when an army is knocking. It's not that we would speak Arabic by magic. We would speak it because someone else would have won. Language, law, calendar, culture, they always come after the swords. And this applies to everyone, even to those who today pretend not to know it. But be careful. Here, honesty is required. The Crusades are not a moral fairy tale. They are not good versus evil. They are men against men. There are sackings, betrayals, useless massacres, crusaders fighting among themselves. Constantinople sacked by Christians, an absurdity, a crime, a wound that still burns. Denying it is for partisans. Admitting it is for adults. But using the Crusades as definitive proof that Christianity is violent is a rhetorical trick. Because no one does the same with others. No one reduces Islam to its armed conquests. No one reduces communism to the gulags, except for polemical purposes. Only Christianity must be the eternal defendant. Always in the dock, always apologizing, even for defending itself. And this is not history. It is propaganda. Today, the Crusades are used like a symbolic baton, not to understand the Middle Ages, but to strike the present. It works like this. You take a complex event, reduce it to a caricature, isolate it from its context, and then wave it under the nose of those who believe. See, you've always been violent. It's an old technique, effective, lazy, because it avoids the real question, the uncomfortable one. What does a civilization do when it is pushed into a corner? Not what it should do according to a university seminar, what it actually does. It defends itself, badly at times, confusedly, bloodily. The Crusades do not arise from a project of global domination. There is no Christian master plan. There is no will to convert the world by the sword. There is a frontier collapsing. There is constant pressure. There is a world that reacts late, and it reacts with the tools it has. Those who today demand that the Middle Ages reason like an NGO are staging moral theater, and moral theater is always comfortable because it risks nothing. The point is not to sanctify the Crusades. The point is to stop using them as an alibi for not talking about history, an alibi for not talking about conflict, an alibi for not talking about identity. Because the idea that a civilization has no right to defend itself is a suicidal idea. No civilization in history has ever functioned like that. Europe is not born innocent. It is born fragile. And it survives because at a certain point it says enough. This does not make it pure. It makes it real. And perhaps that is precisely what disturbs people. Because a real Europe is a Europe that has fought, has made mistakes, has lost, has won. A fake Europe, instead, is one that apologizes, even for having existed. The Crusades are not a myth to defend. They are a lesson to face head-on, without moral slogans, without self-flagellation, without convenient lies. Those who use them as a weapon against Christians are not doing history. They are doing politics with the dead. And the dead, sooner or later, present the bill.